brings us to the next speaker, Tatiana Lengrand from Eramet. She is Deputy Sales Director for Nickel at Eramet, and I guess manganese also falls under her responsibility, but she's talking really about a sustainability topic here, decarbonizing manganese, and a winning strategy for a greener future. So really how Eramet is using the green transformation not only as a need or using it in order to, because you have to, but actually using it as an opportunity to separate, to have a unique selling point very much in the industry. Tatiana, stage is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to show my presentation, and which is corresponds perfectly to one of the topics of this conference to sustainability. This is the first time I participate to Metal Summit. And before starting the presentation, I would like to give you a few highlights about Eramet activities, for those who do not know the group. So Eramet is mining and metal company focusing on 4 main raw materials: nickel, manganese, lithium, and mineral sands. Eramet is operating the biggest mine in the world of nickel ore in Indonesia. The name of the mine, Weda Bay. We are producing also nickel pig iron in Indonesia, as well as nickel ore and ferronickel in New Caledonia. We started production of lithium carbonate last year in Argentina, in Santaria, with capacity of lithium production per year about 24,000 tons. Another activity of raw materials of Eramet is mineral sands. We produce ilmenite and zircon in Senegal, in Africa. And the biggest turnover of Eramet belongs to manganese. Eramet is producing manganese ore in Gabon, in West Africa, being the biggest producer of manganese ore, with 50% of manganese, about 7 million tons. And the part of this manganese ore is going to our manganese alloys plants, which are situated in Norway, France, in the US, and in Gabon. And today I would like to talk about this part of our activities, manganese alloys production, and more precisely about decarbonizing manganese, a winning strategy for green future. I will talk firstly about manganese industry emission structure, then how manganese alloys contribute to steel decarbonization, and finally, I will present you strategic initiative for manganese industry, our label ERA-Law for manganese alloys. Last year, worldwide, steel makers consumed more than 20 million tons of manganese alloys. Why manganese is so important? First of all, for mechanical properties. This means mainly hardness and strength. Then manganese is known for deoxidizing action to remove oxygen from iron ore. And finally, manganese allowed to avoid iron sulfide in the steel. The average of CO2 emission in the industry of manganese alloys is about 3.9 ton of CO2 per ton of manganese alloys. This is true for scope 1 and scope 2. But what makes the difference between two scopes 1 and scope 2? This is, of course, scope 2. Because scope 1, this is CO2 emissions linked to the furnace and taken into account only for the furnace. And the production in electric arc furnaces of manganese alloys are quite similar in the world. But the difference, as I said, comes from scope 2. And scope 2 depends on using electricity. And more precisely, the source of energy used for electricity. For the lowest CO2 emissions comes from hydroelectricity, and the highest one from coal power plants. So how manganese alloys contribute to steel decarbonization? Gradually, steel makers use more and more the scrap in the steel production to decrease CO2 emission. So, in standard steel, CO2 emission per ton of steel is 700 kilos. And manganese alloys CO2 emission represent 6% in this 1 ton of steel. With green steel standards, CO2 emission should be brought to 400 kilos CO2 per ton of steel. And if we do nothing with manganese alloys, if we do not try to decrease the CO2 emission, the share of manganese becomes 10%. So with years of usage of more metallic scrap, the CO2 emission in steel will come to 50 kilos per ton of steel. In this case, if we stay at the same level of CO2 emission for manganese alloys, the share of manganese alloys will be brought to 80%, which is huge. So I propose you to talk about strategic initiative of Eramet for manganese industry, ERALO. This is the label of our manganese alloys. I invite you to see a short video about ERALO label. If you can help me to launch the video, please.
Manganese is everywhere. Manganese is to steel what a foundation is to a building. It gives it strength. So when steel is there, manganese is also there. And now, steel must decarbonize, and manganese must play its role. Today, we have a solution. Today, Eramet introduces ERALO, its low CO2 manganese alloys offer. Below 1.9 tons of CO2 per ton of alloy, among the lowest environmental and social impacts in the industry. Today, ERALO is verified by DNV, an internationally renowned third party, traced on ERATRACE, Eramet's traceability blockchain platform, and produced with the highest ESG standards, because sustainability goes far beyond decarbonisation. This is today, And this is just the start of our journey to produce the world's first zero CO2 manganese alloy. Eralo, low CO2 today towards zero tomorrow.
So what is Eralo for us? It's an invitation to the manganese market segment providing low CO2 for steel industry. With Eralo manganese alloys, the emission of CO2 comes down to less than 1.9 tons of CO2 per ton of manganese alloys, compared to the average in the industry of 3.9 tons of CO2 per ton of manganese alloys. This is true for scope 1 and 2. And we can also provide cradle-to-gate assurance statement, which is available for scope 1 plus scope 2 plus CO2 emissions coming from raw materials used for production of manganese alloys. So Eralo is a quick win for green steel. If we take green steel with the 400 kilos of CO2 emission per ton of steel, manganese represent 10%. But the using manganese alloys of Eralo allow to save 20 kilos of CO2 per ton of green steel. And the share of manganese alloys in emissions becomes 5%. So long-term commitment for sustainability, this is what we provide. Eramet has chosen the transparency for quick win. I propose you to see the video about EraTrace, our platform of traceability for Eralo. Could you please help me launch the video? There is no sound. I'm sorry, it's a technical problem, I think. So on this EraTrace platform, you can go from and to see all traceability of production of manganese alloys from the raw materials and usage of all materials until the final customer. Eramet produce manganese alloys with the highest ESG standards. So we are part of the ratings, independent ratings as EcoVadis. We have a public engagement in United Nations Global Compact and Business for Nature. All 100% of our plants producing manganese alloys are certified ISO. And we have a big ambitions of CSR in our CSR roadmap. And all our mining sites are audited by IRMA. So low CO2 today towards zero tomorrow. To summarize, I would like to mention that the world is moving, and Eramet's vision sets a strong contribution to zero emission. And this is true for entire industry. By recognizing manganese alloys as a key driver in sustainability journey, and taking concrete steps to lower CO2 alloys emission, we are not meeting the demand of the market, but raising the bar for responsible production. Transparency and decarbonization are no longer optional. This is essential. This is a clear call for all customers and manganese alloys producers to align with more sustainable future, green future. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. I think Eramet, as one of the few remaining mining and raw material heavy companies in Europe, is actually setting here an example of how the journey should look and where to go. And maybe one quick question from my side before we start opening up for the audience. Do you see, and I know that this is of course a tough question for you, but do you see similar activities actually from competitors? I mean, I read this morning even that again, I think some of the alloy production facilities in Australia are going to be shut down and they're just going to sell the manganese ore. So I think a huge percentage of the refinery capacity sits already in China. What are you doing differently than actually your competitors, that you're still maintaining that capabilities in your hands?
Yes, exactly. You are right, Frank. This is a lot of manganese alloys producers in the world, and some of them are decreasing the production, like Tempco in Australia. For us, as I said, the most important is low CO2 because of the energy used in Norway, hydroelectricity or nuclear electricity in France. But it's not only electricity usage which is important. We do also traceability. We are promoting the transparent market, and traceability is a key factor for us. We also have two projects in our two plants in Norway, in Sauda, in Porsgrunn, in carbon capture. This is the unique project for these Norwegian plants. And we have our CSR roadmap, which is named the Act for Positive Mining.
I mean, there are a couple of questions already here. I think one of the things that is probably interesting for everyone is, I mean, we're not going to talk about absolute prices here. I think that's understandable. But it comes at a cost, I believe. Any kind of initiative as sustainability comes at a cost. Are we still, and I think there's a question here, are we still competitive against producers that don't really care, and what needs to happen actually in the market to stay competitive? Because the solution can't be that, well, you're producing a great product, but nobody's interested because the price is too high.
Well, we are already producing these manganese alloys that are low, and we are already supplying to our customers, and we are competitive on the market. But you are right, we have to think about this for the future, because there are many other manganese alloys producers on the market and coming to the market every year. So we have to improve our CO2 emission by different projects, as I mentioned, and we are working on this.
Thank you. So we tackled pricing difference. Are there any questions directly from the audience otherwise?
Prices difference.
Yeah.
There is no prices difference for the moment. This is the reply.
I think that's important, yeah, to say. However, I believe, I mean, we need to, the discussion about green premiums is prevalent in many industries. Yeah? What is there a green premium? What should be the green premium? And I think that's probably something that we as an industry, we as consumers as well, need to consider going forward.
Exactly.
I think we have time for one more question, so I leave it to you, which one you probably would like to answer from the questions here. So I think for us probably the topic of data and traceability and the digital tool is from a metal sub perspective very interesting.
Pricing difference, maybe about IRMA. What is the target IRMA performance level? There is no target of IRMA performance level. IRMA is doing only audit, which is published after and known by all raw materials market and by all customers. So for us, it's very important to be audited by the independent company, which is the reference of the audit of this kind of RLO labels or RLO manganese alloys production.
All right. Tatiana, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
We've got also
Thank
a
you
small
for
present for you.
Oh, thank you very much.
And take that.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.